Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Apologies for the quick mic hiccup there, but we are here for the Invitational, and we have officially crossed the halfway mark. It's a pretty exciting night here at GRDC, because we are starting to step up into some really fierce and competitive racing machinery. We speculated upon it last time out. We were in the Copa Montañas last time, and for those who had a keen ear and stayed all the way to the end, you'll know that tonight we are out here with the Cadillac DPIs. These high horsepower V8 prototypes are going to be taking themselves to the Monza circuit for this evening's round, and the 4 out of 6 rounds we've had so far, 4 including tonight, are starting to set up quite a championship battle. Just remember, folks, the podiums are all going to get trophies, physical trophies being sent to the racers. Just a little bit of an incentive, as well as a gesture of their achievements. And of course, we'll want to make sure that all of the drivers bring their absolute best. Looking quickly to the standings before we go trackside and see the drivers wrapping up for practice, we have Moffat currently sat with 127 points. The strong in first race and middling finishes of race 2 and race 3 put him in a square position, 127 points. Only a point ahead, however, of Daniel Gilligan, with a weak first race, but has consistently shown up and got 2 second places on the trot, both with the Superlights and the Montagnas in rounds 2 and 3. Third is going to go to Gasson with 114 points and with 2 fourth place finishes, followed by a 6th in the Superlights. Goes to show that consistency is what you need to build above all else. Those consistent points can get you much further than you think. Of course, we have many other drivers who are going to be telling their stories out there tonight. We have 12 of them joining us on the course right now. And today's format is going to be a 30-minute practice, which we are just coming to the end of, followed by a 15-minute qualifying session. Rather than fully randomized, we are running that quali, and then we are going to be having the 45-minute race as normal, as expected, but with the added wrinkle of a mandatory pit stop for tyres. Safety car might make an appearance, but who knows? Seems to be making a regular appearance in these races, and I believe we might see it again. It is lined up in the pit box. But of course, in the chat, welcome to everyone who is joining us for another night of racing, and let us know who you are rooting for as a driver, whether that is to see the best qualifying times or to go all the way and to see their best race performance yet. We might see some underdogs and we might see some new talent making its way to the forefront, but let's take a look. Let's see what they have on tap. We've got a few drivers out in practice and some of the times starting to stack up rather nicely. We go full screen here. We can see Gilligan is out on track. Of course, one of the drivers who is pushing to try and close up a little bit of time here in practice. Moffat is currently leading the crowd, but that has just been displaced as Gilligan's the first to go in the 36s. I was about to say, Moffat has got a clean 0.30 or 0.030, but Larby has just also come across the line in a bright white with some accents Cadillac, and has pushed themselves up into 3rd place here. Larby is a driver that we know has the pace on their day, but we just need to see it come to full fruition when it comes to race time, and the consistency as well. That consistency needs to be in their pocket, in their corner, as you have many other drivers who are looking to prove themselves out here tonight. Here, for instance, once again adorning their trademark black and red color scheme, showing us what it means to have style out on this course. Simple, understated, and effective. A little bit of an excursion onto the grass now, though, as we head into Parabolica here. Same rules apply with track limits. They are very strict, in particular on that final corner. Very easy to get an extent and get a little bit of additional pace, which can prove an unfair advantage, not just for the current lap, but for the laps following. Finlayson, out on track, currently lowest on the timing boards by about half a second. Their car's not looking too healthy. That front aero is looking rather smushed. I can't really put it any other way. Looks like that front wheel is barely clearing the arch. But they press on. Not sure to what extent that is purely visual or whether it actually affects the aerodynamic package of the car. We've seen a couple of cars also do a little bit of an extend on the second Lesmo before they get under the bridge into Ascari. We've seen a couple of cars in practice have a bit of an off-track excursion at that point in the race in particular. Cormac is looking very nice, I have to say, with the black and gold. Very good colour scheme. Of course, colour scheme that has etched itself into motorsport history with the likes of Lotus. But it's a timeless look. And you've still got the nice contrast with the white on the fin. Very close to the edge of the track there for Molle. Let's see if that's converted into a new time. Coming up to the lines now. And looks like there is a mild improvement, but nothing massive to write home about. Billison does get an improvement of his own. Breaks that half a second that he needs to get up into P11, leaving Murray down in the dust now. Murray going a little bit too far over Ascari. 10 seconds left in practice before we get into qualifying. And the initial statement has been set by a good amount of the field. We're going to see drivers lapping around the 137s, with a few crossing into the 6s. That's the pace that we can expect. We've got a very good race ahead of us. And quite a fierce and competitive one too, not to mention. Our last couple of cars now crossing the line before practice officially is finalised, and we are straight into qualifying. Also a chance for drivers to fully dial in their setups to get themselves in the right headspace as well for a night of racing. We'll of course see what they have in the oven, what they're cooking in the tank for tonight, but if there is one thing I've learned with all these racers out here, is that it truly can be unpredictable. You can have some racers who are nowhere near the current leaderboard, but will still show themselves to be a fighting force. Like Paul Wallace, DNF'd the first race. Second race, got P10. And oh, that is a very nice pit wall graphic right there. But there you go, you can see the timings in full. Best sectors as well. Gilligan getting a very strong Sector 1. Beaten out in the second sector by Moffat, but tying it all together with a very nice Sector 3. Parabolica, Ascari through as well, looking very nice. You can also see the track temperatures looking like a nice balance, with the ambience being only 12 degrees. A little bit brisk out here in Monza today. We are expecting, usually when we come into these race situations, the temperatures to be at least in the 20s. Of course, that is the easiest operating window for the drivers to get their tyres working and giving their tyres a little bit of life, get the maximum grip out of them. But they might have to work a little bit harder to activate that rubber underneath their cars. So you are just a few seconds away now, and you can see the time gaps between the drivers, with some of them closing in quite substantially. We are 15-minute quali, and we will be jumping in post-haste as drivers are already making their way out of the pits now. We've got Moffat currently pushing ahead, along with Cormac Wally as the two drivers first to make their way out. I'll say white and pink / purple, another very nice colour combination. If there's one thing I do love about having single make races like these, it's a chance for drivers to express themselves through their paint. You really get a sense of their style and character through the visuals of the car sometimes. Although that could be me potentially reading into it a little bit too much. Some might just think it looks nice. You can see the entire field making their way out in droves, trying to accelerate into this qualifying session, get as much time as they can to set. Well, they know from practice roughly how long a solid lap is, so they need to be efficient. They need to make sure they're optimized for as many runs as possible, and a chance to catch themselves if they make any mistakes. See, Molloy is going to be the first car out. And how will they fare? Let's of course see how they do. Coming out through Parabolica now, going for a bit of a narrower approach. Here we are, first lap officially underway. We're on board with Molloy. Let's see what they can do. Of course, giving it absolutely everything, starting to jump on the brakes just after the 150-meter board, and then that's through the first chicane very nicely. Straighten up as quick as you can, get on the throttle, ready for Curva Grande. You want to try and keep your line as tight to the inside as possible, minimize your line of action, and also staying narrow means you are in the best possible position for the second chicane. Again, jumping quick on the brakes, looking very tight, very nice there. Little bit of curb on the outside, and now through to the Lesmos. Lesmo 1, a little bit of camber you can use to your advantage. Lean into the corner, nicely set up. Lesmo 2, you have to be a bit more careful. Does spit you out what feels like a little bit early, but a nice bit of curb and a good balance takes him through very nicely into the final sector now. Sweeping under the bridge, taking us into Ascari. Much to the right as possible before swinging your car in. You can take a little bit of curb, but you have to make sure you don't go too deep, because otherwise you might fall victim to some of the sausage curbs and being in a bad position for the second half of that complex. Looking good from Molloy here. Now into Parabolica, one of the most iconic corners of this circuit. Goes narrow, peels out wide, extract as much speed as they can from that exit before making a straight shot to the finish line. Is it a solid one here from Molloy? Let's see what the timing board is going to say. It's not going to be... Oh, there we go. That is a 137.749. A little bit delayed there. But Moffat, just behind, is going to be a 0.722. Larby is a 0.3. And many other cars are now pushing themselves. Gilligan going very late out of the pits, I have to say. Simonade only managing a 39.2 as the first wave of times are now making their way onto that timing board. We'll see who else makes their way through. That's going to be Cook along with Yero, all in the 138. So forming that middle ground between P3 and what is now P6. Paul Sims was a driver to watch out here tonight. See what they can make of this one. And it looks like as we come up to the line, a few other cars are going to make their way through. It's a 38.2. Quality run there from Sims. Good baseline, good benchmark. Jumping on board with Finlayson now with a much healthier looking front aero. That nose is looking at least 50% longer than it did the last time we checked. And we've got a couple of other cars who are now going to be making their way. Starkey, 40.6. Bit of a weak initial run, but of course plenty of time to improve. Finlayson now coming up to the line, and it looks like that was their outlap rather than their full core, and that is my mistake there. Barham also just set a 39.3, so most of the field is looking fairly set up. Gilligan also starting their run here, getting themselves set up adequately, ready for this quali. A couple of other cars now heading into the pits, because we have Molloy, we have Starkey as well heading into the pits after taking their first runs. Crazily enough, Moffat and Larby only separated by 5 milliseconds on that timing board. Quite an impressive feat, if I do say so. But we do just have Richard Cook, who has absolutely stormed through, displaced the two, and now we have him with a 0.414 in third place. It's taken the podium spot from Molloy. Are we going to see any retaliation from that top end of the field? Unfortunately, Finlayson going a little bit too deep into Ascari, managing to recovering it, but that is going to be a run as good as abandoned. The dirty tyres and the off-track excursion makes it all but fruitless to continue. Gilligan is on a bit of a push here, going almost too deep into Lesmo 2, getting a bit close for comfort with that gravel trap. Now on their way through Ascari, popping the left side up a little bit high in the air. They take a bit of sausage curb, not afraid to go narrow on that section. Looking quite composed from Gilligan here. Reason they're on P2. But can they keep this solid momentum? They've had 2 second place finishes on the trot. Can they get a win? Moffat has just set a 0.031. Is there going to be any retaliation from his main championship rival. Let's see. Coming up to the line now, it's a .243. It's 2/10 shy. But for a first run, it's mighty solid. And he's straight back into the pits. He's not wasting any time whatsoever. Many other cars now completing some of their runs. We have, sorry, for instance, going very narrow there, trying to minimize the line they have to take. It is going to be a little bit slower, unfortunately, so no improvements to be made there, but still a quality run nonetheless. Even if you're a 10th off, you can breed some consistency and put yourself in a good headspace for the race this way. Barham now, P9, 39.3, 2 seconds to make up to the leaders. Can there be a sizable enough improvement? Let's watch and learn. As he does go a little bit narrower here. Doesn't peel out all the way to maximize the speed out Parabolica. It is, however, going to be enough for 8.5 tenths. That's going to push him ahead of Ito and into P8. Solid run all round. Simon was a solid driver in the top end of things, has proven themselves to be a driving force in this championship. We'll see what they can do with this one. Arcing their way around. Just remember, 10th of a second is enough to put them into P3, potentially P2 with a bit more. Is an improvement, but not enough for position. It's going to keep them just out of the reach of Cook, however. But they are about to set a new time. Is there any more in the tank? Unfortunately not for Cook, not this time. Final runs now coming out from some of the cars as we've just seen a few fly through. Starkey's 37.8. He's going to put himself in P7 and pass Barham. Molloy is back out there once again and looking to give it another push. After being displaced from the top end, he's looking to take it back. Meanwhile, we have our two top championship rivals, Mollett and Gilligan. Oh, Mollett and... Moffat and Gilligan. My mistake there. Moffat already being on a lap and Gilligan just having started one. I'm going to keep an eye on Moffat here. Because, of course, two tenths up. There's nothing to scoff at. He is currently a 10.5 down in that first sector, which is a little bit concerning. But he can still make this work. A solid Sector 2 here can put him right back in contention. Oh, a little bit too far, unfortunately, though. That's going to leave them ripe for a counter. Robert Gilligan. Let's see. Through Lesmo 1. Is there going to be the same mistake? No such incident from the Cadillac we are on board with at this moment. I have to say, this is channeling a lot of Audi R18 vibes in terms of visual style. I do very much like the grey base with red and orange accents. Kind of reminds me of the Shell Audi R18. The Team Joist. Quality driving all round so far. We've seen this time gap as well throughout the field thoroughly diminish. We're seeing P1 through to P7 being separated by just 6 tenths, which is a very small gap in the grand scheme of racing. Maybe this is the one for Gilligan now. 2.5 seconds down. Maybe that was just a test lap, or just maybe even looking to burn a little bit in order to get themselves out for this being the primary run. Moffat out on the course once again as well, making their way to Lesmo 1. Your Cook about to finish. 3.5 tenths down from the leaders. 0.385, just 200ths of a second will push him past 8 here. Is he going to have it? Nope, that's going to be the out. And this is going to be the full push. Speaking of Simon Aid, a little bit wide there it looks like. And going to be into the pits. See what these other drivers make of it all. as we have a few more cars now making their way. Gilligan's up to Ascari, but Moffat's already on his way to Parabolica. He could get himself into the 36s here, but he's only got 3 minutes left on the clock. These drivers have got themselves a high-pressure situation to deal with. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. This is probably going to be the last lap for many. Half a second down for Moffat. No improvement to be spoken of. Is there going to be anything from Gilligan in response? Firing it out of Parabolica. Tight to the inside line as possible. Still shy by 3/4 of a tenth. Not enough to make this one count. Any other drivers pushing their way up? Molloy here. 0.409 to beat. Is there going to be enough? This is the full push. We'll stick on board with him for a little bit, as other drivers are starting to circulate round or consider whether they have enough time to go out once again. Gilligan has decided that it's another chance. Moffat has remained out from their prior run. I wonder, is there going to be a bit of tyre degradation at play? We will, of course, see the live track technology incorporated with AMS2 mean that the rubbering in is going to affect some of the drives and race times. But Molloy looking nice and clean, 10th down. But still plenty more fight to give as we head into our final 60 seconds very soon. A little bit too much curbing, I think. Getting a little bit shaky on the outside of Lesmo 2. The final 60 seconds. The drivers have now got to make it count. It's now or never. 3.5 tenths down and a very big sweep through Ascari. I believe that might have been a minor connection hiccup. We'll see what these drivers can make of this last opportunity, as many others have now decided to head into the pits to yield, as we are seeing from the white Cadillac in the background. Molloy just passed over. This is final pushes. This is the last chance. Anyone who's out on that course still needs to make this count. Again, 3/4 of a tenth down for the driver. This time Molloy being the one to suffer for it. Moffat is still out there as well, but Gilligan is coming up to the line. Moffat's just headed into the pits. No improvement on the .031. And looks like Gilligan has gone for his last round of the course. The qualifying has officially completed, so only drivers left out there are Cook, who was just managing to get across the line in time, Larby, who was making their way down to Ascari, followed closely by Finlayson, and then Molloy making their way to Lesmo 1. Let's see what Larby can do. Of course, they yielded to make way for Molloy as they came around into the Parabolica. They wanted this primetime run. Peak track evolution, last real shot, and currently a 10th up out of Sector 2. Let's make it count here as we come through. Final corner. Parabolica, careful to stay within those track limits. You can see he's gone very conservative on that initial run. Only barely dipping the edge of the outer tyres into the danger zone. Larby coming up to the line. This is looking good. It's very good for Larby there. That is a P2. Is there going to be any response from the field? Finlayson into the pit. Molloy around Parabolica now. Looking like a connection is playing a little bit of havoc with the track positioning, but they remain committed to the lap. Coming up here now, even more impressive. That is a solid run, .077. A new podium spot, and Gilligan is not going to go out again. They cannot make this lap work, and that is qualifying done. Moffat is your pole position holder here at Monza with the DPIs. Molloy is going to take a commanding second spot, and Larby with a very impressive final run of their own, as qualifying has officially been closed and the times are all on the screen as you see before you. You can see Moffat taking a commanding lead in Sector 2 in particular. and barely taking a edge on the likes of Molloy and Larby for Sector 3, but Cook and Gilligan are the ones that really impressed with that sector. 35.9. So Parabolica and Ascari is Gilligan's home turf, it seems. Drivers are going to have to be very wary of that, especially considering that is the peak setup point for overtakes into the following lap. Very impressive run from all drivers, all 12 that we have out here tonight. But we are just moments away from the race. And while we wait for the race to get fully set up, just a quick word for everyone here that we wanted to thank you all, everyone who has been watching the races so far, supporting us, whether that is just liking the stream or anything else. We thank you immensely. We're very grateful to have you on board as we build into AMS2 and start to take this on the journey of GRDC. Here we are. This is just the peak setup phase here. The drivers are just at this moment in time making sure they are fully ready, and then the lobby will reset with a 45-minute timer. Just remember though, folks, 45 minutes, mandatory pit stops for tyres, and a safety car very likely to make an appearance at some point during the race. This is going to be quite the excursion, and we'd love to have you on board. But let's get back into the racing. Let's see, as the drivers are now making their cars ready to go. And the Cadillac's looking sharp and speedy. Final setup phase. And then we go out on track one more time. Crazy to think that we are now over halfway through this season. We have 6 rounds planned. We're already on 4. And we have, of course, a big surprise for you. Stick to the end, and we will announce the next round. Make sure that you are here for it, because you don't want to miss this new combo that's coming up for the penultimate round of the season. Trust me, I think you'll love it. But here we go. This is going to be go time. And everyone is out on that course. Looks like the timing has had a bit of a moment. Not exactly sure how this is going with the timer, but everyone is set up in its formation. Also, a crucial chance with everyone now on the course. Get those tyres up to operating temp. Remember, ambient 12 degrees, track 15. Much lower than the typical 20, sometimes 30 degrees Celsius temperatures that these drivers are accustomed to. It means there's going to be a little bit more effort to keep the heat in those compounds to wake those tyres up. The formation lap being underway. Of course, there are a couple of drivers that we really ought to keep our eye on. Moffat goes without saying. Solid competitor all round. And then Gilligan in second place in the championship, just a single point behind, is down in 5th with an unsuccessful qualifying run at the very end. They're very much banking on that last run, and it didn't quite pan out. Rather than overstress it, pull it back into the pits, make sure that you're in the right mindset for the race itself, because that's what really counts here. Qualifying is just setting yourself up for a good race. But you can still have a bad race, even with a good time. And a good time is not what you will be having in the end. You can see all the way down P1 through to P12, some drivers really putting in that extra work to get those compounds up to temp. Need to make sure they find a good balance though, because it's not just going to be the surface temps, it's going to be the core temps to retain that heat over a race distance and when you're not cornering to generate that friction. Solid, stable core temperature on your tyres is going to go a long way to your race longevity. And it's a fine balance with tyre pressures and suspension geometry to get it all working in sync. That racing machine needs to be communicating and working with you. So here we are. Final corner of the course as we take our parade of Cadillac DPIs just ahead of the race. Everyone getting into their prime spots. And there you go, the timer has shifted. 45-minute race, and then when that line is crossed, we're ready to go. There you go, there's the red lights. The track is hot, and it is green, it is go, and everyone is immediately away. A great start from Molloy is going to set him asserting into that first corner, immediately going for that overtake there. Cook going to be going into the third, and oh, that's a massive crash! That's a spear! That was not a race mode, that was a spearing by Sims, I believe. What was that movement? Looks like they just outbraked themselves and fully went into the side of the other cars. Lobby Sims truly being left out to dry and well behind the rest of this field, is not going to be happy whatsoever. A little bit of dueling and jousting between Murray and Barham as well is not going to help matters. That's Cook on the side, on the infield of the course, and is going to be taking a late rejoin following what I believe is a mistake on the brakes. They're dropping right down, and all of that chaos has allowed Molloy to pull a 2-second gap on the leaders. Moffat and Gilligan, now reunited, are in P2 and 3 and already locking horns. You can see Gilligan has gone for it into Ascari, and this is just the first lap. The field is without a doubt bringing their A game, but saying that, there's going to be a little bit more fight coming from them, yet. Looks like that is going to be Moffat, though, heading straight into the pits. That is going to be a big issue for him heading into the later stages of this race. It's not looking like a good time for him. We see Moffat being joined by Cook and Sims as being the major players in that incident down at the bottom. Moffat now re-emerging from the pits, but with a massive amount of time that they need to make up. We're seeing most of the grid, though, start to displace themselves around that course, that sector evenly populated with prototypes. We are seeing Vissery and Larby getting a little bit close, and they're in close quarters through the Lesmos now. That's Larby down the inside of 1 into 2. Can they confirm the move? A very clean move from Larby indeed, I've got to say. Nice work over that field. Although a little bit getting unsettled through Ascari. A little bit too wide there. Not looking like they're the most composed. Maybe freaking out a little bit. So we're going to take potential advantage of that as they stay very wide. Vissery having a little bit of work to do, P13 in the standings, but looking at the front, Gilligan at this point in time is trying to close that all-important gap. He is starting to break a little bit of that time down, and a very nice run he's having through this lap at least. Keep up that consistency, Molloy will be in his grasp in no time, but Molloy needs to work pretty hard on his own. He's managed to get this breakaway. Now he needs to make sure he gets full use of it. Sector 2 is going to be a particular pain point. Sector 1 and 3 you can almost deal with. But Sector 2 he needs to make sure that he absolutely gets clean, because otherwise that will put him in a poor position heading into the other areas. Playing to strengths here. Of course, the aero setup is not going to be so easily tamed on these cars. They may be prototypes. Was a Mon hypercar spec, I do believe. But that does not mean that they are 100% glued to the road all of the time. They do still have some liveliness. These are race cars to be respected. As Barham is showing right now, he's gone for the move through Parabolica, but he's not overdoing it. He's not pushing too hard to try and get on the throttle before Finlayson does. A nice battle between the two, space being left comfortably so, and with very minute time differences between them, it's going to be a drag race heading into the first chicane once more. Gilligan now within a second of Molloy, and Barham a little bit later on the brakes is going to have that competitive edge that sees him through the sector right now. Gilligan managing to make some good work here of it all as well. You can see that Molloy is starting to make a couple of mistakes. That's some gravel being kicked up there, and that's going to play a bit of havoc for his grip for a little bit. He might have some dirty tyres to contest with. This is a chance for Gilligan to make a move and to potentially assert himself as the definitive leader of the race for the time being. Moffat is thoroughly out of the picture for now with a 33-second gap to the leaders. This is not going to be something that he just gets back overnight. We're about 10 minutes or closing in on 10 minutes into the race already, and there hasn't been a single break point in the action. Just as one fight is slowing down, another picks right back up again. Barham and Finlayson staying close. All of this is going to be mesmerizing to watch, I can tell you that now. Molloy going on the defensive, remaining narrow. Gilligan trying his luck, peeking a little bit on the inside, trying to stay out of the wake of the aero from the Cadillac ahead. Doesn't quite get the jump on the exit that they would have liked. A little bit of skittishness from Molloy, maybe holding him back from going 100% on these attacks. Remaining committed to the racing line, that's going to be Molloy all the way out. You can see 3/4 of a second down. We know that Gilligan has more in the tank, but he's just not being given the room to do it because Molloy is putting up such a good job in its defense. Molloy is really playing his hand, playing the field right now. And with about half a second between Finlayson and Vissery now, Barham has managed to get away. They might tune into their battle as well, but looks like Gilligan could go for a move here. It's down to a single tenth. He's peeking the nose in as we head into Parabolica. There's going to be a attack attempted from Gilligan. Can they get the exit as well to potentially fight all the way to the first corner? They're just slightly behind as we come to the line here. About a tenth separates the two. No slipstream to help him out. He's thoroughly peeled to the right side. Molloy's going to go to the inside. Gilligan back out. That's going to be a quick switch as we head into the chicane. Big wobble there from Gilligan. Goes a bit too deep and has to avoid the sausage curbs. Looks like a little bit of desync there. It was a bit of contact, but doesn't seem to be actually anything of note. And Gilligan, through the chicane, has managed to take it. Looks like Gilligan, with that newfound freedom, is already pulling a lead. About 0.8 of a second just between the chicane and Lesmo 2. Impressive stuff from him there. Switching back with the rest of the field. Finlayson in the middle, and whoa, that did not look good there. Not sure what that was, to be perfectly honest. Thinking we're seeing a little bit of networking hiccups coming here from AMS2. But Barham a bit further up the road as well. Starting to get his own space. Make a bit of a breakaway. Not too dissimilar from Starkey, because Starkey has at least 4 seconds either side of him. A whole 10 if you're looking between P4 and P5. But here we are now, 10 minutes into the race. And Starkey does have a chance to just breathe. He's sat in P4, solid position to be, and he hasn't got any major external threats. He can afford to take his foot off the pedal and just focus on running a solid strategy with consistent lap and pace. That's going to be the key here. Bring the consistency, let the others fight, and burn their time away. If I was in Starkey's shoes, that would be the strategy I'd play for. We're seeing some of the laps as well, timings-wise. Start to paint a bit of a picture on where these drivers' heads are at. Finlayson, for instance, last got a 42, either due to that network wobble, or maybe the confidence not being fully there after having an overtake or two done on him. It's tough to bring that confidence back. But we look to the other end of the field, and we can see Cook is thoroughly down the order. 1 minute and 34 seconds behind. 42 was their previous lap, and you can already see the leaders start to come in for a potential lapping. Looks like that Cadillac in the red is seriously struggling out on this course. Hope that they do find their footing in due time. But coming up to the line now, we'll see what kind of pace they can put down. Looks like things aren't going too well, because a 43.9 is a tough situation to be in on the pace front. Paul Sims himself not doing much better, despite lapping in the 39s and on good form. Has still, of course, got that major deficit to contend with. So it's been a race to forget for some, but for others is opportunity. Eid, for instance, in third place, is starting to close in on Molloy following their drop from Gilligan for the lead. And any squabbling or infighting here could be a chance for the likes of Starkey to reel in too. Looks like he's starting to peek around, starting to get a little impatient, because they are within very close proximity to their competitor. A good move here could set himself up for at least the next 10 minutes. Don't forget, there will be a pit stop window to contend with. Not to mention the safety car. Although is going to have to pull out some of the same defensive maneuvers that they did to keep Gilligan on the ropes for so long. It was only through some quick footwork that Gilligan managed to get ahead. Can Eid pull the same? We're now looking confident. Holding their own, refusing to be influenced by the assailant behind. So that's going to be the number 17 of Simon, chasing down and looking for a chance more than anything. To tail another car of this type is always the most difficult. You're dealing with dirty air, potentially even starting to get into the realm where aero wash is present. And you've got to juggle all of that while trying to look for opportunities to go for an attack. I do not envy Aid's position here. And I revel in the combat that is about to take place between the two. Looks like we are down now to 10 cars as Cook has bailed from the race, being a whole lap behind. Sims is still in it. But remember, 12 starters and now only down to 10 cars means that this grid is going to start looking a bit sparse. And not an ideal situation to be in for anyone, because we're here to race. But if you are in a race situation like Cook, to an extent I can understand. Rather than get bogged down being an entire lap away from the field, put the car away, save the headspace for next race out. So there could still be some points on the board, which is why I dissuade from such choices. But on a mental level, I can get it. I can understand. And drivers need to be on their A game for each round. So if it's a longer term call, then so be it. Looking out now. The fight between Aid and Molloy remains fierce, as we are now 15 minutes into the course. Looks like there's a quick swing from Aid as they try to tease Molloy out into an uncomfortable position. Molloy doesn't fall for the bait. They have remained firm and on their racing line heading into Ascari. See that Cormac is just like a lead wall. They refuse to move, refuse to yield to anything right now. They're making it very clear that they are in command of this fight. And they are not going to let Aid take the position from them so easily. Goes narrow, goes to the inside. So I'm trying to peek a nose out just a tad. Of course, remember, too much time in the slipstream as well, and where you're not getting that laminar airflow, your tyre temperatures and your car's internal temps will start to climb. Do that too much, you'll get overheating, loss in performance, or worse. Regardless, Aid presses on, intent on making this move work. Looking around this field, Barham has got a couple of seconds away from the likes of P6 and P7 being over 9 seconds away. That's going to be Finlayson. Moffat could have a chance to take a position here though. Lapping on very good time. Fastest lap out of everyone in that last run. 37.6. That's 2/10 faster than even the leaders. Was on top of qualifying, and it's time to put that taste of peak pace to a true test. I'm not sure what has happened though to Finlayson, as it looks like they have just practically handed Moffat the place on a silver platter. I believe they went off track on Lesmo 1. That front of the field looking very sharp, as there will be soon that pit window where they have to come in. Remember, tyres are mandatory. Maybe the drivers are just choosing to stretch out that initial stint for as long as possible. We'll of course have to wait and find out what they have in mind. Many others are now looking to find out what options they have on the table. Hero, for instance, currently P6, 2 seconds away from Gary Barham. Does he go for the move, or does he play it conservative, considering 10 seconds splits him and Moffat? Though that time is going to degrade. Moffat looking very confident in that DPI, and easily making up time on the rivals. And looks like that question has been answered for us, as Visuri has dropped the rear over the sausage curbs, is having to wait 4 competitors to go by in order to execute a safe rejoin. Finlayson is not going to get past, as Missouri just takes that opportunity after Moffat passing. Still very frustrating with the black and red. Very frustrating indeed, but for the likes of Moffat, this has played perfectly into his hand. Very early pit stop, interesting maneuver and choice, but now is very quickly gaining time back up and chasing the dream. What is almost a last to first here. Looks like Simon Aid is headed into the pits, however. Going to be one of the first on this midway point to go in, which leaves Cormac 1.3 seconds away from Gilligan and Starkey a whole 6 seconds adrift from the next competitor. What to say, it is mesmerising watching these cars lap in, lap out. Almost like an elaborate tightrope. You walk the fine line between pace, grip and safety to achieve the fastest possible speeds. Right now, eyes are on a couple of key players in the top end of the field and in the mid. Because a well-timed pit stop can leapfrog your competitors. And as we look to Gilligan, of course, leading the race right now, is known to take the stints a bit longer. And this did unfortunately come back to bite him in the Superlight race. Standing a bit too far and dropping the pace significantly to eventual race winner. But the field remains very much compact. Molloy, though, heading into the pits, not wanting to take that fight, say pneumatic jacks, being pumped. As they're going to be getting their car fully rigged and ready for another stint around the course. Starkey is going to inherit P2 from this endeavour, and Byron being pushed up into P3. More curious fact of the matter is, with Moffat technically taking a pit stop at the start of the race, what does this do for their strategic options? Does this mean they could have a late resurgence while the others pit in? That's the question on my mind. But of course there is the safety car to contend with too. But officially at the halfway mark now of the race, your standings are looking mighty impressive. Yeah, I've got Sims in a little bit of a backmarker situation, having just been overtaken and just taking things a little bit off piste there, as that is going to be just a few of our other racers, like Murray. In fact, Murray is fighting with them for the position, so they are all the way down in that lap spot. I'm very much looking for that chance. Really gotta say, I think drivers are still reeling, particularly in the mid and bottom fields. Reeling from that early collision, that spear, that dive. And a situation like that does take you out of the race mentally. It takes a lot to bring you back in. There you go, that's Barham, third driver to jump in here. Moffat now going to be taking the podium. It's a race against the clock, and oh, that is Murray taking it too much into the chicane and dropping into P10. Missouri is going to also be joining in the pit lane, as they are going to be part of the second half of drivers now to pit in. This does leave a few unknowns on the table. Moffat rapidly surging to try and gain time once more. Starkey and Gilligan having 10 seconds between them, but staying out on their initial stint thus far. For the moment, they are in control of the race, but that could very quickly change. Moffat might have played his cards to go for a big undercut, but of course we'll wait and see what the future holds. Lap 16 now for our competitors. There is much racing to continue with. For those who are uninitiated or your first time being here, I mean, first off, welcome. Welcome one and all. But also, it's worth noting that this 45-minute race does have a mandatory pit stop, and that means that drivers, however late, however early, all have to make their way into the pit lane for a fresh set of tyres at some point. It's a limiting factor to impose some strategy, impose some creative thinking and racecraft to what could have been an otherwise flat race. Although these drivers are quickly proving that pit stop or not, they are bringing the fire. Barham now trying to play the catch-up game, as Eid is just a few seconds away, and if they can reel in, they can capitalise big time. Hero's going to be taking that bottom spot in P10, but that isn't indicative of the whole story, because Sims and Murray, I believe, are going to be drivers who will need another stop at some point. So might not tell the full story. Starkey managing to close a second on Gilligan here. But Gilligan is now headed into the pits, so that story might as well be moot, and Starkey is going to follow suit right away. Which could leave Moffat in the peak runnings. Could leave him in the front. Let's see what he does and where he comes out relative to the field. Into Parabolica now. Race against time. Nice smooth arc curvature through the corner there. Going to be Starkey taking tyres. Gilligan taking tyres. Moffat into the pits as well. It looks like they weren't going for the undercut. In fact, were going for just having to take repairs. There's Gilligan back out on the course. Are they going to remain on top here? Finlayson's going to head into the pits. Molloy is going to be surging past the pit lane, having taken a couple of laps prior. Is this undercut going to work for the black and gold? Let's see as they come past the pit lane. It's going to be close, but it's not to be this time. They're going to be just slotting in behind Starkey, who has made a late game resurgence to the front. 17.5 minutes. Clocking in. This race is anything but over. I'll say this is probably one of our most exhilarating races on the calendar yet. Only set to get even better with the final two. That's going to be Finlayson now out of the pits, and with that, I believe every driver has now taken a mandatory pit stop. Mode 2 going to be quite the indicator for pace. It's a perfect balance of cornering grip and aerodynamics. But here we go. There's the safety car making an appearance just after that pit window. Almost perfect timing there. As you can see, they have collected some of the back markers. There's going to be Surrey and Murray just ahead of current leader Gilligan right now. Safety is out in full. And the field is going to condense significantly. It looks like they're going to be taking them around for a couple of laps at least here, in order to rebunch the field ready for some tight competitive racing in the last 15 minutes. It makes me think on all of the varied formats that we've had over the course of the season. We've had the Copa Unos, We had the Caterham Superlights. We had the Copa Montañas. And now we are here in some thoroughbred racing machinery. But there you go. Safety car already back in as quickly as it arrived. And we are back to greens once again. Field now bunched up to within a couple of seconds. Only difference being we now have the back markers ahead. There's already going to be a move on the first of the two. That's going to be Surrey under attack from Gilligan. Going to go straight down to the inside. The blue flags might become a contentious topic after this one, as everyone is going to try and get past the lapped cars. But a quick push there from Gilligan is going to put himself in prime spot to get away from the likes of Starkey and Molloy, who has now made it past and into P2. Now looking for another jump on one of the back markers. As Murray has been overtaken by Gilligan, Molloy is going to follow suit. Looking for plenty of chance through Lesmo 1. Very tight, very close. Big slip on the rear for Molloy. That could bring the likes of Moffat into contention here properly. The safety car has, of course, given him a fighting chance to get back in this combat. Back markers now being displaced for the most part. Just still have Murray, who is stuck in between. And this is the chance that Gilligan has been waiting on. This was an ideal scenario for him, because now that back marker has given him a getaway plan. He's able to escape. Well, it won't be forever, as Molloy is going to go down the inside heading into Parabolica for lap 18. Moffat soon to follow suit as both of them go very wide. And not only is Moffat now making it past Murray, but is within striking distance of P2. This is where the fight really begins. Simon Aid also going to be there with Barham now being stuck behind the back marker. Chances are plentiful here, as it looks like Starkey has in fact dropped down the field significantly. What happened to him there? I believe he may have had an off. An unfortunate one at that, because they are over 8 seconds away from Finlayson, who is entrenched in the battle. Although looking like they've seen better days, as that side aero surface and the crash structure is looking a little bit compromised. Looks like they've taken a bit of a fender bender, or at the least had a bit of an excursion into the barriers. Pressing on regardless though, pushing hard to try and close that all-important gap and stay within the fight. Simon Aid looking for a chance briefly on Moffat. We just saw in the foreground of the shot. They did almost get out of control, but they managed to keep it together, even with 2 wheels on that grass. "12 minutes remain. There's going to be anywhere from 7 to 9 laps with the current pace in tow. Or I should really more accurately say 6 to 8. As we are lapping on average at about a 1 minute and 38 seconds. With the leaders fluctuating between the 37s and 39s, and the lower half of the field around the 41s. Some ups, have some downs. Murray currently P9, last lap 43.447, but does have a shot at redemption here, because they could take the move to Missouri for P8. Found themselves as the leader, of course, having been overtaken by a lot of the back markers. This is their chance, this is their shot, going down the inside of Lesmo 1, taking command of the corner. Nicely done and a very clean move, I have to say. Surrey's not going to let that one go without a fight, however, as they peek down the inside of Lesmo 2, though nothing committal. No commitment for the moves. Molloy and Moffat, though, they very much are committing to each other's fighting, and going to be committing to taking that second position. For a second, I thought that Molloy went off in Ascari, but doesn't look like it. Looks like they've held their own. But all of this fighting, we can see Gilligan now 4 seconds ahead and counting with 10 minutes remaining. Chances are not exactly in Moffat's favour here. Molloy we know to be a solid defender, and he is dropping him down about half a second each time. The patience is going to be wearing thin for the white and pink. The number 43 car waiting for a chance to strike. Could this be it though? They looked like they were priming for an early exit. Through Curva Grande they go. Only a tenth separates them. Peaks to the outside. Can they get a bit later on the brakes and go for this? Very close, but not quite. That inside line going to be a dominant for Molloy's case. And all of this fighting has brought Eid back into the action too. There's contact briefly between Moffat and Molloy. That's going to be a big issue there. Barham barely making his way around Lesmo 1. Molloy, though, has been displaced by Moffat well and truly. And this also leaves the door open for Simon Eid to go for a chance of their own. Peeks around the outside, almost going into the grass there. Keeping him out of trouble. Only a few tenths separate them now. But look at the gap to the front. Gilligan, lap 22, about to start. 6.5 seconds clear. This is the after effects of fighting to this extent. With now Barham being in the fray, and this very quickly becoming a 4-way joust for P2. Hang on to your seats, folks. This is going to get fast. Moffat and Molloy fighting through the chicane. Molloy initially getting a bit of a run, but can't keep it. Poor second half. Curva Grande now right back to the edge there. Very inside line, close as they can go. There's big contact. The two of them are off. They are completely off the course. That is a spin from Molloy. Major contact between himself and Moffat. It's completely wound 180. And is going to be dropped down the order like a stone. Coming into the path of Paul Sims, but barely making it out into the chicane once again. And this has completely changed the game. Eid now takes P2, Barham and Moffat P3 and 4, and Molloy thoroughly out of contention. Oh, big excursion into a... Oh, actually not. Looks like that is another bit of netcode moment. Moffat, though, not being so lucky. And peeling out too far on the outside. So Eid having a key opportunity in their hands now. They have the chance to keep a podium. And potentially even steal away P2 from championship favourites like Moffat. There is a race to be played for here, folks. When I say a race, I mean a race. Moffat probably not feeling 100% right now, considering they did have that major contact with Molloy, and it's likely going to come back to bite either one of them. We don't know yet. Of course, we're not the stewards here. But he might be ailing a little bit with a bit of aero surface damage. Doesn't look like it visually. And oh, looks like that's a big off-track excursion. That is Barham now dropping into P4. Too much on Lesmo 2, and that's all she wrote. P3 now for Barham, going into P4 and losing the hopes of holding that podium, at least for the time being. They need to pick that confidence back up if they want to have a resurgence. do see also, meanwhile, Molloy trying to go for a bit of a crusade of their own. Was being maybe feeling wronged by that whole ordeal. They're going to be pushing hard to try and take that position. Finlayson going very defensive on the inside, maybe a little bit prematurely there if anything. Has compromised their pace on the exit, and this could be all the chance that Molloy needs. In fact, no, Finlayson is going to be heading into the pit lane now. Curious choice there, but we will of course see where they come out. As we step into the final 5 minutes, paradoxically, seems like this is where drivers have reached the highest state of calm. They've found their positions out on the track. They've got at least a couple of seconds between every single car on the course. And with only 10 racers on the field, the population means that they have a bit of a room to breathe. Despite being the final 5 minutes and what should be, by all metrics, an adrenaline ride, an amped up, anarchic race to the finish. With the gaps that are imposed, drivers are going to be focused more on just bringing it home. Don't have to push, especially if they have a driver who is 7, 10, 15 seconds away. They have to ask the question of whether it's worth it. And for many of them here, it's better to lock in the solid points that they have than overextend. We want to see that fighting spirit from drivers, of course. But fighting spirit does not mean recklessness and with a lack of strategy. There is plenty of strategy at play. It just might be under the surface of what you may initially seem. Molloy is going to be going into the pits once again. I assume they picked up some damage that they cannot continue with under the current conditions. So they are going to be making their way out of the pit lane now and into a P6 position, as Finlayson is going to be much further adrift and now just coming out into Parabolica here. Safe to say though, final couple of laps are dawning upon us. We will have the final surge. Any final pushes from drivers? If there's going to be a time, now will be a good one. The race is on, despite it not being that apparent. They're all considering their next moves, their next chances. Barham and Starkey have started to draw much closer together, in fact. And are within a shot of trading positions. 6/10 down on the best lap delta might just be a sign of ailing vehicle condition. A little bit of a lockup though from Barham could give Starkey a bit of confidence in how they are driving relative to their opponent. Remember, the more data that you can get, the more information that you can get on your opponent, the better off you will be. You'll know how to read their moves, to predict what they're going to do next, and attack accordingly. And oh, looks like there's some serious contact between them. I'm not sure whether that was entirely within control there. It looked like there was a massive technological moment. And now Barham is going to be lapping this track without a wing. They're going to be seriously dropping out some pace here, leaving a lot of speed on the table. You can already see how much slower they're having to take these corners, to the point where the back markers, the likes of Usuri et al, are already closing significant seconds. It's not to dissuade from the fact that Starkey might have got damage of their own too. We'll have to, of course, wait and see what the conclusions of that incident is. Because, I don't know about you, but I struggled to tell what was real and what was fiction. But here we are, final lap from the leader now, as we come into lap 27. You can already hear the crowds jeering for all the racers out on the field. And as we come through the final lap now, to the 10 drivers who have finished, we salute you. Because Monza, of all tracks, it's a unique high-speed challenge. And there are some areas that you can very easily be tripped up upon. Lesmo 2, Ascari, Parabolica, just to name the biggest ones. We've seen Lesmo 2 trip up more drivers than anything else. The racers have brought it all to here tonight. The time has officially elapsed, which means that the next lap is the closing. And in a triumphant display here. Oh, a little bit of a network. But in a triumphant display, as we look to the racers and we look to what this field is capable of, there is one driver tonight who, after 2 second-place finishes, is going to finally claim that win that they've been knocking on the door of for so long. Gilligan makes it a 3rd podium on the trot with a win tonight in round 4. A seriously impressive run and a welcome addition to their trophy cabinet, I'm sure. It is going to be pushing on and going into... Oh, what is this? Is a little bit confused here. Is that going to be them jumping into P1? Very bizarre there. Not sure what to make of that. Precisely 1 second between them. Moffat going to be crossing in P3. Starkey in P4. Molloy going to be coming through at P5. Looks like we lost Sims in all of that. Just one of the drivers that we lost. Only 8 finishers are going to be making it in the end. Finlayson going to be coming through. And over a lap behind, Vasuri, Murray are already crossed. Finlayson being the last car to make it through. Credit to the likes of Molloy, Moffat for sticking it out despite that early setback. But here we are, coming across the line now. Final racer. And there you go. That is the race complete, ladies and gentlemen. And your timings are on full display. Sims with a DQ in the end is going to be out, leaving 8 drivers in the finishing position. I wonder if there was an on-track penalty at play. Of course, those were your finishing results. And where we take a bit of a moment to discuss the race that we have just witnessed. I've got to say, extremely impressed with all of the racers out here tonight. Goes without saying that they have absolutely shown us what they are capable of. The DPIs are not an easy car to handle. So, before we say anything else, I want to, above all, credit the drivers on a very strong race and a good job well done. We will have a chance to talk to one of our drivers and to get a bit of insight into what happened out on that course. Now, the racers are, of course, going to have plenty to discuss between themselves. But we will, of course, wait and see what they have to say. Now, I'm going to be joined in the commentary box by a very special guest. Driver who made it to the end, and in the end, took the top spot. I'm just going to join over this side. Simon, we have got you in the commentary box. I was trying to drag you in, but decided that it didn't really want to play ball in the end.
It's all good.
But hey, welcome, and I got to say,
Thank you.
before anything else, congratulations on
Thank
your
you.
run out there tonight. It was a solid showing, brilliant run out there, and
Yeah,
I guess my first question to you is, how are you feeling about it all?
very, very warm at the minute. Honestly, I'm stoked. I think great bunch of guys out there. I think we had a few server issues. I think we'll all look back and hope that AMS2, the 1.6 version coming up, is going to help us with that. Some of the cards were glitching here and there, and a couple of technical issues, but we were all dealing with it. And yeah, some great racing out there. I think. Honestly, yeah, Daniel Gilligan, unbelievable. Guy can drive like a mental. But everyone else, yeah, some really great racing, tight, fair, and obviously the unlucky ones. So yeah, they're really good.
Awesome. Well, we did see a little bit of technical issues on our end as well on the broadcast. We did see a couple
Did
of
you?
cars jumping back and forth. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, we did have a couple of moments where we were wondering what was truth and what was fiction. But
Trust me, so did we. It's
hey,
unbelievable.
it looks
Yeah,
like
it's
everyone
all good.
handled it well. Now, one thing I'm curious about, what were your expectations heading into tonight? Did you come in with the win in mind, or were your expectations a little bit different?
No, no. I think, look, I don't actually have the time to practice as much as I know a lot of the other guys do. So, what I generally do is I do focus on this race, and I'll practice a few times during the week. But I know I could put in some consistent times, and I think that was really all I'm ever hoping for. I mean, if I can hit in the top 10, I'm stoked because these guys, all of them, that really are all very, very quick. So tonight was a real surprise. I'm really happy.
Was there a particular moment for you where you realised that you could maybe win it out there tonight, or were you very much with the waves of it?
No. You know what? I think I don't think I ever thought I would win it. Daniel's he's amazing. He's really just too quick. But I thought I could be in the top 5 at one point. And then Danny had a run in just in front of me. That was really unlucky. I think it was McCormack, I think, and sorry, Cormac and Danny. I would have been fourth, and I think that's kind of where I settled. But yeah, when that happened, I thought, nah, okay, this is good. You know what? There is a time where you have to risk everything, and you have to know where your limits are. And I did know that I didn't have the limit to getting him. But one day we'll keep trying.
Well, it was certainly a sort of strong build, and I gotta say, considering that this is, I mean, our first race in what I'd say is sort of modern, up-to-date machinery, up-to-date racing
Yeah.
machinery.
They are amazing. They are so good. Jeepers.
Yeah, what was the car like? How did it feel? Because it looked like
Oh
you were
wow.
absolutely locked in on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. No, I must say, I think dialed in. I did definitely feel dialed in. I think they do really well with aero. So as long as you don't go too slow, the faster you go, the more they grip. So you do have to trust the car. And I think that's kind of what I was doing a lot of the time. But yeah, honestly, it's I think that's it. I just felt dialed in with it. The car is incredible. The tires did really well tonight. I think we all thought the tires were going to go a D grade by the end of the session. I think our score had nearly 78% on all 4 tires, even spread. So that was really good, really good.
Man, it also sounds like testament to having a very balanced setup in terms of the stresses
Yes,
on the car.
yes.
So
Yeah, you know what? That was all that there was. I just took the standard setup. When I was testing, I found that the 2 front tires were burning through a bit more, so I just clicked 2 back on brake bias, and that seemed to settle it, and that was it. That was all it did.
nice. Well, if it ain't broke, as they say.
No, exactly. Thank you. Also, I wanted to say thank you for all of your commentary. I certainly do love watching it. I'm sure many others do as well. So keep up the good work.
Appreciate it massively. And as to you, wouldn't have a job without everyone here bringing their A game tonight. So Simon,
Yes, everyone. Yeah.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
And my thanks to all of the drivers as well. So be sure to pass it on my
Okay,
behalf.
will do. Will do. Will do.
But so brilliant stuff out there tonight. Looking forward to see what you bring to future races, because we don't really know until well, I'm about
We're
to
gonna find out real soon.
yeah, I'm about to reveal the round 5 spec in just
Oh,
a
good.
minute to broadcast.
Oh.
So
Good stuff. Well, thank you very much anyway. Appreciate it.
and thank you. And
Sure.
that was, ladies and gentlemen, that was Simon Eade. And I got to say, a very impressive run. A very solid sportsman. And clearly, there's plenty more left in the tank for him on the racing front. Now, let's talk about the next race. I promised that we would reveal at the end of the race for those who have stuck around, and I am pleased to say that our penultimate round is going to be headed to Bathurst. And not just headed to Bathurst, we're going to be in V8 Supers. We're going to be going full traditional, 600 plus horsepower, no traction control, no anti-lock brakes. Bathurst with V8 supercars. It's going to be a riot. And I, for one, cannot wait. Of course, if you enjoyed the racing here tonight, folks, goes without saying, but make sure that you give the stream a bit of love, that you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, because this is where it's going to be, and get involved. We have the Discord, we have many other avenues that you can get involved with us on, and we'd love to have you on. If you want the full standings and breakdowns, of course, look as well to the likes of SimGrid, and we will, with all that being said, folks, part ways for now, but we will join you again very soon. Be sure to come back in 2 weeks' time, because we will be headed over to Bathurst with V8 supercars for probably the most treacherous race of the season. And with the championship in the balance, you won't want to miss it. Goodbye, everyone, for now. My name's been Ben Sapsford, aka Sappytron, and I will see you in 2 weeks' time. Good night.